My name is Alexandra and I'm a member of Arboris academic group. I would like to present you Howard Gray, who is an active ambassador of Green Blue Urban, as he says himself. He's an extraordinary specialist in tree planting. The very first tree that he has planted was 45 years ago. And up to now, he cooperates with many people and specialists by educating them about how to maximize the efficiency of the process of planting. And his main goal is to provide the best conditions possible for every seeded specimen. I wish you all a pleasant and fruitful time here. And I invite you to use the link below in chat so that you can gain a certificate that you have been part of this lecture today. And yeah, let's give the floor to Howard Gray. It's a great pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed, Alexandra. Thank you everybody for coming on. I'm very touched that you have given up your evening to listen to me. I'm an enthusiast about trees. I don't hug them, I don't talk to them, but I believe in them because I believe they make a massive difference to the quality of life that we have. Too often, we feel that trees are just there. They're something that has always been there and always will be there. But we find that many of the trees we have planted more recently are not living for their full lifespan. We are not getting all of those benefits that we want to get from our trees. So what can we do as tree planters, as specifiers, as designers, as urban enthusiasts? How can we create urban landscapes that are resilient to the future? Let me share my presentation. You should be able to see that now. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Good. So we want to talk about what is the best practice? What is the best way of getting trees to grow in our urban realm? Well, as a company, we have a mission statement and we operate as the interface, as the connection, as the joint point between nature and our buildings, our built environment. And it's really important that we understand this connection because we have our built environment, we have our architects, we have our engineers, we have our urban designers, we have our highways officers. And then on the other side, we have our landscape professionals, we have our arboriculturists, we have our tree people, and the two sometimes don't mix. So Green Blue Urban work really hard to make sure that we can understand what trees need and how we can provide it to create great trees for great cities. So as a company, we started in 1992. I was working for the company before that. We looked into why trees don't grow very well. And we found the first thing is that when we water them, when we irrigate our trees with just a hose pipe, it's very ineffective. Most of the water runs away. Very little of the water gets to the roots. So we started with a watering ring. And then we moved on to root barriers. Then we moved on to the soil cell. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But the understanding that the quality of any plant we have, whether it's a small plant or a great big tree, the quality of plant relies on the quality of your soil, what it's growing in. And in our cities, in our urban developments, often the soil is very degraded. It's become very compacted. We've put hard surface over the top. No water can get into it. So we need to think about some way we can put a forest floor quality soil, the sort of soil that you would find in the woods. How can we put that underneath a road without the road sinking. And that's the idea of a soil cell or a soil cage, a load-bearing structure that we can fill with good soil. The roots can grow through it, and the tree thinks that it's in the woods, but it's growing in the town. So in 2000, we invented that, and we've continued to innovate. 2007, it brought out the strata cell. 2016, the root space. Now we're on to root space generation 2 and root space ocean. And we have done lots with sustainable drainage, using our trees, using our green infrastructure, using them to deal with our stormwater runoff, taking the water off our highways, putting them through our tree pits, draining them through that rooting system, bringing water to the tree and getting rid of some of those pollutants, and then rain gardens and other features. And we work all around the world. We have distributors in nearly every continent. We have the same problems that we have in the UK, we have in Poland, we have in Australia, we have in China. So much pressure on development, not enough room for green. And the problem is that we know that we like green areas. We feel better. We want these trees to grow well, but too often we don't provide for them. And we create places that sound nice, like this street here, which is called Cherry Tree Walk. So you'd think there'd be some cherry trees, but there aren't any. Although it sounds good, we're not creating the environment into which the trees need to grow. We're not giving them the space above ground, but we're not giving them the space below ground. We are not giving them parity. We're not giving them equal, the grey, the hard infrastructure, the green, the growing infrastructure, and then our blue, how we deal with our stormwater. We need to think about the idea of balance in between these different elements of urban design. And this is a quotation. This may not, I do not know if this will actually translate into Polish, but suburbia, that's the area around the town, the area where we live, is where the developer cuts down all the trees and then he calls the streets after them. So you might find in Poland that you have some streets called Oak Street, or you might have a street called Beach Street, where there are no trees, but it sounds good and that's all that matters. It's not. We must get past this. We must invest in our infrastructure. In London, we have some great trees, some really, really great trees that were planted 150 years ago. And what they did then was they raised the pavements up, the sidewalks, and they put in huge soil vaults all the way down the road, 2 meters deep, 8 meters wide, and all the trees have root into that really good soil all up and down those vaults. And that gives us some really great trees in London. And we were really surprised because we never knew about this until recently. But it proves the idea that good soil gives good trees, which is what we try to do now ourselves. So we get trees that can share rooting volume. So the roots root into each other's area. They have enough soil so they can grow for as long as they would in the wild. So we don't just look ahead 10 years, we think about 50 years, 100 years. How can we get trees to maturity long term? And this is the clue. We've got to take a long-term vision with green infrastructure if we're going to get trees that are going to grow to maturity. And we've got some great tools available now, some software which helps us understand the value of trees. In the UK, we have a tool called CAVAT, which is the Capital Assessment Valuation Tool. In America, in the USA, they have iTree Eco, which is being used across Europe. And this is very valuable because we can not only value what we have, but we can start predicting values. We can say, if we plant this tree in this way, then it's going to be worth this much in 20 years' time. And then this justifies us putting investment into that asset. Really important to look at green infrastructure as an asset and understand what trees need to grow. They need that room below ground. As a rule, trees will grow wider than they will grow deep. The roots go wider than the canopy, but they don't go very deep. Roots grow opportunistically. They find the easiest route to food and drink every time. So they go along the surface if they can find easier food there where it's not so compacted. Really important to remember this, that trees do not need to root symmetrically. They may not root all the same or all the way around the tree. They may root just in one direction. And you won't be able to tell that from the canopy. You can only tell that from finding the roots. So be very careful when you're planning for a tree that you allow for enough rooting volume of high quality soil, but enough to get the tree to maturity. So what are the benefits? Well, there's so many benefits of urban trees. There's hundreds of benefits, but actually we can only measure about 15, and we can actually only put valuations on about 6 of those benefits. And that's really important. So anybody who tells you how much a tree is worth, it's a very small proportion of its real value because we don't understand it yet. Can we still hear all right, Alessandra? Everything is, can you still hear?
Yes, of course, everything's all right.
Excellent. So for this presentation, I've put just 4 of the main benefits together. The biggest benefit of trees is what they do in holding storm water. By holding water on the canopy, that's water on the leaves and on the twigs and on the branches, that stops water going into the drains. That means that our drains can cope. If we have no trees, we have flooding issues. So trees help with our storm water. Trees bring biodiversity into our urban settings. Some of our native trees are amongst the most biodiverse things on the planet. They have birds, they have insects, they have lichen and lichen and fungus. They look after mammals, and they have so many things they look after. So, and the great thing about a tree is you can do other things underneath its biodiversity. You can park your car under the biodiversity. You can walk under the biodiversity. You can sit under it. So think about trees as biodiverse elements in our cities. They increase property values. They help our houses, our buildings be worth more. They increase rents in our cities for commercial buildings. They help our retail sales. We find that people stay longer in the shops if there's decent trees, and they give us cooling and shade. And it's really important we think about this. As we have hotter, drier summers, our trees are natural coolers. They not only give us shade, which stops the sun heating up the surfaces so hot, but they take water from the ground and they evapotranspire. They take water, they push it out of the canopy. One good street tree can give us the same cooling effect as 10 room-sized air conditioning units. So here we have a beautiful tree in the middle of a lovely English village green. Ideal, perfect location. Probably too big for most of our city centres, but a beautiful tree. But our green infrastructure, the benefits we get from it are closely related to leaf surface area. Not how big the stem is, but how much area of green is in touch with the air. So we must understand that bigger trees can give us hundreds of times the benefits of tiny trees. So to take out one big tree and put two little trees in its place is never going to give us the benefits. We must give these benefits. We must understand the importance of retaining canopy. We must make sure that we don't remove trees without a good reason. And if we do, we must replace them in such a way that those trees will give us those benefits long term. And we've published this book called Cost Benefit Analysis, where we actually look at the different planting methodologies and we say, how can we plant a tree in such a way that it brings us value? Really important. It's free to download from our website. But if we plant trees poorly, over the lifespan, say 100-year lifespan, that tree will cost us more in replacement and maintenance costs than it will in terms of planting it better and getting those benefits from it. So how can we plant our trees? Well, the green-blue urban arbor system is designed to plant trees in the best way. We dig the tree pit, we put a drainage layer, we put a mesh, we put the root space legs, we lock them together, we put the lids around and a mesh up the side, we then put the stone, the underground guying and the soil, a root director to manage the roots, a twin wall geonet and the aeration ports. We're then ready to put the tree in, the tree grill frame, and then the underground guying and the irrigation. So what we've done is we've planned for this tree, we've provided for this tree, we've protected this tree, we've given it everything it needs. That tree is now can stand alone until it becomes independent in the landscape. And we've done projects all around the world. This is one we did in England, in Ipswich. In 3 years, look how well those trees have grown by giving them good below ground support, giving them good soil, maintaining them. Those trees are fast reaching establishment. Another one we did, and this is in Scotland, where we planted trees down the middle of a very busy road, and we've turned that road into a more pleasant place for pedestrians, for cyclists. We've actually created an environment where people want to come and sit and have a coffee. We've turned it into a boulevard where it was a really vehicular place before. Another one we have done in the Isle of Man, which is an island off the coast of the UK. And these are trees we planted in the hard area, trees which we've planted properly, are thriving, and then some in Port Erin still on the island doing incredibly well. So how do we do it? What are the clues? Well, the most important thing is soil. If you understand soil, you'll understand planting. Soil is so important. But what we find is that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, soil has the same ingredients. It has our aggregates, that's our stones, our sand, our rock, our grit. It has our organic, that's anything that was alive and is now dead. That might be plant, it might be animal. We have our silts and our clays. We have our water and our air. And we have our live bits, our worms, our weevils, our bugs, our bacteria, our mycorrhiza, our fungus, our nematodes, our roots, everything that's still alive in there. And whilst the proportions change around the world a bit, the most important thing about soil is air. We must keep that soil aerated. If soil doesn't have air in it, roots can't grow, plants die. You may have killed a plant yourself a pot plant on your windowsill by putting too much water in it, by drowning it. And we can all do this. I have done it. And the problem is what we do is we mean that by putting too much water in or by compacting it, we're getting rid of the oxygen, which means all our live bits in there can't live anymore. And without that relationship between our live stuff and our roots, we can't get any nutrient out of the ground. So when we plant well, we have picture on the left there, which is in Wembley in England. If we plant poorly, we have the picture on the right, which is just behind the same development, but with really poor soil, and the trees die. So we do a lot of work with finding out how trees grow. We do root radar, which actually finds where every root is under the ground of an established tree. And it helps us predict where those roots are going to go. Where are they likely to root long term? Very, very important for us that we can predict that, because it enables us to then design our tree pits away from difficult situations, whether we're talking about pipes under the ground, whether we're talking about pavements, because quite often we get trees which are accused of breaking up pavements. And this is because we haven't thought about what that tree needs. We haven't thought about the requirements of those roots. And so those roots just go underneath the pavement, because underneath the pavement there is water. Underneath a hard surface, you'll have little drips of water, condensation, and the trees will take those up. So it's really important we think about it, and we know it works. We've been doing this for 25 years. We've had trees in the ground that there's been no movement at all, because we designed them to manage those roots down to a lower level, which means that that can establish in good soil. There's also a lot of discussion about what trees we can't plant, trees whose pollen is allergenic, trees which have diseases, trees which have poisonous fruits. And we need to think about different species that may not be native to where you are at the moment, but may be able to cope better with our changing climate and cope with our urban situation. There is no tree that is native to an urban environment. Our urban environments are exotic places. They're places which give really difficult environments, reflected heat. They have air pollution. They may have compacted ground. So we need to find tree species that really, really work in those situations. And we need to understand that we have below ground constraints. When we look at a tree pit, we often find there's elements beneath the ground that we didn't realize were there. Might be pipes or ducts, there might be cables, they might be constructions, they might be cellars, they might be bomb craters, they may be bomb shelters, they may be even things like railway lines. So we have to be very careful, and we have to understand what trees are looking for. And as regularly we work around these below ground constraints. We go underneath them, we go beside them, we work as long as the tree's got enough volume, that tree will do well. So we might do an unusual shaped tree pit. That doesn't matter. As long as the tree has that volume then of soil available to it, that tree will do well. And we have to work with the utility companies, the companies that provide our gas, our water, our electricity, our communications, and allow them access, if necessary, to that rooting zone. So the products that we do, we call the Arboris system. And this is what we call everything. This is the overarching name for a suite of products, a number of different solutions that can work together or can be on their own if they need to be. But what it does is they work together to provide everything the tree needs until that tree has reached maturity. And it starts with the soil. We must look after the soil. Even if you're planting a tree in a soft area, make sure that soil is in good condition, because even a tree in a soft area with poor soil will not do well. So looking after the soil, once we've got a good soil, we then look after it within the root space soil cell system, making sure that that is looked after really well. The root space consists of the U-shaped leg, which clips together, so you get one complete structural system. Means that we can work around below ground utilities. It has a hollow air deck or lid, which means that air can pass right across all the soil. We don't get any areas which have no oxygen, and it can very quick to put together and to load by machine. It's very, very strong, and we have these tested by third-party test houses, as well as testing them ourselves for quality control. We actually have published this book, which is free to download, again from our website, how we work around utilities, how we work around these below ground constraints. Have a look at them, and free to download them from the website. We've also launched the Root Space Ocean. Now, all of our products are made from 100% recycled material. We don't use virgin plastic. We use recycled end-of-life plastics. But we've launched the Root Space Ocean because this is made from reclaimed marine waste. Fishermen's nets and ropes that they normally would throw away, we have them repelletized, repurposed to make soil cells from them. And that's really, really important because we are taking a truly waste product that used to be thrown away at sea, and we've actually then taken that discarded product and we've made something that increases our green infrastructure. And all these products are recyclable again. We recycle them ourselves. We have our own recycling plant. We do underground guying to hold the tree down. Different ways. The lower down you can hold the tree, the better it is for the tree. We can do that in a very shallow way. We can do that in as low as 350 millimeters of soil. So it doesn't have to be a very deep tree pit. We do a lot of planting on podium decks or on rooftops where you've got a very shallow soil profile. We can help with that. We do a wide range of root management. That's root directors on the left, which is a one-piece module, or we do the root barrier. That's a flexible barrier, either flat as we can see here, or we do it ribbed to stop the roots girdling round. They hit the rib and they're forced down, or we do the root form, which is a structural root director. We do a wide range of tree grills as well, and this is a protection to allow overrun, so we can actually means that the tree can grow, can still get water in, can still get gaseous exchange, so get oxygen in, carbon dioxide out, and it also means that those roots can establish without actually being crushed, and that's really important that we get established. And we do a wide range of different tree grills and guards that suit every application, that work from just light pedestrian traffic up to heavy goods vehicle protection. We also do, our story is a great success story. We have planted over 500,000 trees in urban settings around the world. That's a great story to us. And we have a distributor within Poland called GCL. Alexander is the best contact. And some of the projects that we've worked with them, and this is the station in Wrocław, I think I'm saying it right, Wrocław, where we've got the trees out the front are incredibly healthy. These trees were planted about 10 years ago, and they've got this great avenue of trees now right out the front of the station, doing really well. And last year, when my colleague and we came to Krakow, we actually came in and went to Katowice, and we saw some of the trees there which we've planted in the city centre. This was May, so the trees weren't out properly, but they were doing okay. And they're again in the city centre. And then outside your opera house, your National Opera House, many of these trees which are built into the steps, they've got the green blue urban products underneath those paving to enable those trees to grow to maturity. We also do a range of street furniture. It's important to think about how your street scene will work together. So we're looking at the trees, we're looking at the tree protection, and then we're looking at how the public work with that. So benches, bike racks, bins, bollards, everything that was needed in the street to enable people to live outside, enjoy the outside. We should be making our streets places where we can thrive, where humankind can really enjoy. Now, we can't get trees everywhere, so Green Blue Urban do a range of climbing wall trellis systems. This is stainless steel wire systems which we grow plants up. We can grow plants from the ground, or we can grow them from the rooftops and grow them down. And remember what I said, that the benefits we get from green infrastructure are closely related to our leaf surface area. So if you have a big green climbing wall, that's as good as a tree. So don't be disheartened if we can't get a tree. Think, what else can we get that will do the job? And we have a range of different fixing systems, which means that we can actually get this to work in difficult environments. Even maybe lightweight buildings, we can get lightweight plants to climb up to help perhaps hide it in. We also do a wide range of sustainable drainage systems. Now, as I said earlier, this is using our green infrastructure, using our trees, using our plants to take water off the highway, off the sidewalk, off our roofs, taking them through the tree pit, through a special soil mix, cleaning that water, slowing it down, feeding the tree, and then sending that water, less of it and slowed down, back to a watercourse. Really important. If we're planting a tree, why don't we make it part of a drainage system? It makes a lot of sense. This is a project we did in the north of England, where we took all the water off a busy road into 6 tree pits. Now, these trees have done really, really well. They've grown very, very fast. Every time it rains, it gets a new watering. And of course, it washes in good stuff as well. It brings in nutrients. It brings in helpful chemicals into the tree pits, and the trees then thrive on those. It deals with things like oils and other pollutants. They're broken down in the soil so that we can then send that water back into a river, into a watercourse, or back into the ground, but it's clean enough to do that. Another project that we're working on is Arborcharge, when we're thinking about electric vehicle charging. If we're going to put in a tree pit, why don't we think about putting in electric vehicle charging at the same time? If we're digging a hole in the street, why don't we actually connect into the electricity supply so that our trees are doing more than one thing? Our trees are growing well. They're helping with our climate change. They're helping with our heat island. They're helping with our water. They're giving us biodiversity. The tree pit is taking some of the runoff water off the roadway, off the highway, off the pavement, off the sidewalk, and we're getting electric vehicle charging points in there as well. It makes sense to do it all as one job. We're also doing a range of off-grid lighting, and this is a street lamp, a lamp post which doesn't require any electricity. It has a large solar panel on the main pole. It has a wind turbine at the top. So during the day, that charges up with electricity. During the night, it then runs and the turbine supports it if there's any wind. This means it needs almost no installation costs. There's no electricity needed to run it, which means that we can put these in places where it's difficult to get electricity. For example, some cycle lanes, coastal locations, mountain car parks, but there's no expense involved in installing them. And these have a 20-year design life without any electrical or maintenance required. So as a company, we're very committed to reducing our carbon footprint. We use 100% recycled material. We're changing our own vehicle fleet over to electric. We're looking for more eco-friendly processes to manufacture our goods. We're seeking to find better ways to manufacture with less of a carbon impact. But more than that, we're looking for every tree we plant to be able to attain species potential lifespan. If a tree can last for 100 years in our forests, why? So we're looking for every tree to live for its full lifespan. If it can live for 100 years in the forest, we want it to live for 100 years in our towns. We need our trees to outlive us. Please have a look at our website. It's greenblue.com. There's lots of information on there. There's lots of the references that I made. There's publications, there's blogs, there's videos. There's also our library of tree pit drawings, from the simplest tree in a soft area to a complex sud scheme. These are available in CAD and in PDF, free to download. Please have a look at greenblue.com, and please contact us or contact Alexander at GCL, who'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you very much indeed for listening. I trust this has been of interest. I'm sorry if I've spoken too fast. I have a lot to get through, so many apologies, but hopefully that made sense. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Howard, for a very nice speech. It was really honey on my heart when I saw many examples of very good planting and especially very nice trees which are growing, not only trying to survive. So it was a really big pleasure to saw it and to hear from you. Thank you very much. And of course, we are waiting for questions.
Thank you very much. Did it make sense to you, Alexandra?
Yes, it was very inspiring, and hopefully I can make an input like you do in the future.
We're very supportive of Poland and of everybody who wants to make trees live longer than them.
Yeah.
Are there any questions?
I have one question about climbers. Do you try to use also these underground systems for planting climbers on the streets or only for trees?
We use them for both. Normally, the climbers don't need so much soil as trees. But
Yes.
for example, where we have a sidewalk that goes very close to a building, and we have just a small cutout for where the climber grows from, we then put the soil cells underneath the paving to support good soil for the climber to grow along.
And second question about some conservatory zones, zones with heritage. Do you use the systems in historical spaces or not?
Absolutely. Yep. We use them all over the world in the most historic places. We have them outside St. Paul's Cathedral in London, which is amongst the most historical places in England. But because it's all hidden underneath the ground, you'd never know. But the trees just appear out of the ground, beautiful big trees, but they're supported by Green Blue Urban. So there's no historical reason why you shouldn't use them. Interestingly, often trees grow better in historical areas because the ground has been dug up so many times over the many years that the trees can find their way down through the little gaps, the air and water and things like bodies and dead people and things that can find their food.
Thank you. We have a question from Monica.
Hello, I'm from Gdańsk.
Hello, Monica.
Do you use special quality soil for the trees?
Well, in the UK, we have what we call British standards. So there is a soil that we have. What we would say is use a good quality topsoil for growing trees, which is great. If you're thinking about using the trees for drainage, what we call sustainable drainage, you'll need special soils for that. Because if you use a standard topsoil, you often find that the clay content within that soil will slow the water down too much, and then you start getting flooding. So for planting a tree in an urban area, we say a high quality topsoil within the soil cell will support the tree. If you are using a bare root tree, so it's a tree that's been taken out of the ground during the winter months and all the soil taken off, and putting it into a manufactured topsoil, so that's a soil that's been made from sand plus compost plus bits and pieces mixed together, what we often find is you hasn't got a lot of life in it. So we reckon mycorrhizal inoculant, something like what we call root start, a mycorrhiza to help get that tree growing. If you're taking a tree that's been in the ground before, what we call a root ball tree, then that root ball has got all the goodness you need. You don't need any extra inoculant, just a good soil.
Thank you so much.
Just remember though, if you're in Gdansk, you have very strong coastal winds. So what you will find is you have to irrigate more than you would in, say, for example, in Wrocław or in Krakow, where you're further inland, because the stronger the wind, the more the tree will evapotranspire. So when you're working on your irrigation, always add for extra irrigation in the summer for coastal areas.
Yeah, the wind is a real problem in my city. Yeah, exactly.
And also, of course, particularly if you have a really strong north wind, when the leaves are just what we call bud burst, the leaves are just coming out, because you have this salt wind that comes off the Baltic that actually desiccates, it dries out those new little leaves. So what we say in those conditions, keep watering, because what that does is that helps those leaves keep fresh and damp. Otherwise, you can kill them with salt.
Okay, thank you so much.
It's a very nice description. I like it that you show on the example what is need to be done. Great, thank you.
Now this presentation will be shared with you. I will give you a copy of it. You have recorded it anyway, so you can listen to it if you are sad enough to have nothing else to listen to better. But if you've got any questions, my email is howard.gray@greenblue.com. You have got a copy of that anyway, but you can send any questions to me. We'll do anything we can to help you get better trees. Go plant great trees. Let's create something for our children's children.
Thank you very much for that support, and I hope we will all together try to do the best work with more green trees, which are really and not only try to survive.
Very good. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
if there are no further questions, I would like to invite you once again to use the link in the chat. If you cannot use it, please go to the Facebook page and there's the link. It will be there for, I guess, half an hour so that you can use it due to some disturbances. And Mrs. Howard, thank you. It was a really great pleasure to hear to your experience and to get to know you, not in person, but a really nice time.
We have been before. We will come again. See you then.
Yes,
Thank you
you
very
are
much.
invited. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.